Hey, I'm Sarah Greener, host of the podcast here at the Moxie movement. I'm the creator of the Power Hour time back system and the Success Map systems creation process. I went away for a week, left Johnny and Scarlett here to hang out by themselves. And when I got back, I feel like my daughter's growing up 6 months while I've been away in 1 week. It's so interesting how quickly the kids grow and adapt and change. And Johnny's really been working on what are the things that she can do independently while we're here. As kids get older, needing to have their independence becomes more and more important to them. And where we lived in New Zealand in the Bay Islands, that was really easy. Everyone spoke English. It was a small town. Everybody knew Scarlett. And feeling really confident and safe for her to go and do things on her own was easy. Now we're in a different country. It's still a small place, but she doesn't speak the language, or she speaks bits of it, but not all of it. Having the confidence to let our kids do things on their own, giving them the independence to do tasks, be responsible for them, super important. And this came up the other day with clients, actually, really interestingly. And I was thinking about it as a kid. I grew up on a big farm. We had 2,500 acres, and I have so many fond memories of work that our parents gave us to do. But it wasn't all the work. When they were like there and looking over your shoulder, you were like, that wasn't as fun. But when we were allowed to do stuff by ourselves, we were allowed to take the horses and go out and muster means to like collect up all the sheep or cattle in one paddock and bring them back. Those were cool. Or where we got tasked with drenching all the sheep because we were big enough to do that now and actually work through and do the process. I have really fond memories of that. It reminds me that our job as parents isn't to keep our children and hold on to them and make them part of our lives, although I want to have a great relationship with Scarlett. Our job is to help them become independent, functioning human beings so that they can go out to the world and become a vibrant expression of who they are, not who I want them to be. And so allowing them to do some things that are on their own and that are independent is super important. And just in those 7 to 10 days while I was away, Johnny obviously spent some time making sure Scarlett was picking up some of the tasks. It meant that when I got back, she was cooking really amazing breakfast for us. She's been doing some of the laundry around the place, and she feels really empowered by her ability to do those things, which is super cool. Where are you looking for with your kids little tasks they can do that are theirs, that they own, that they're in charge of, that they're responsible for, that helps them feel like they're getting older, they're growing up, they're trusted with these really important tasks. And it's going to make your life easier too, right? Because otherwise you're having to do all the work. While I was away, is that I was reminded that there is a lot of noise in the marketplace about people spending less money, a lot of noise on social media, in the news media, and they're not great headlines. They scare the hell out of people. They make people do exactly what the governments of the day want us to do, which is contract and spend less. When you talk to people who actually have their fingers on the statistics, is that the total amount of money being spent isn't any less. And I was like, what? That is not what's being said. Households are spending exactly the same amount of money. However, they are having to be much more deliberate about the spending decisions that they're making. And while I was at this event last week, that's what they were talking about is, are you a great spending decision? And if you are, how are you making sure everybody knows that you're a great spending decision? And if you aren't, what do you need to go in and change to make sure that you are one of those great spending decisions? Because people aren't spending any less money. They're just making far more considered, far more deliberate choices about who they place their money with, who they spend their money with. Is that you? We want it to be you. How do we make sure they know that? That was really important when there's so much noise in the marketplace about nobody's spending any money. That's fear-mongering, and it's not true. We looking down the barrel of the end of the year. If you're in my world, in the Moxie world, that means we've only got 2 more 6-week cycles to work on projects. That also means that we are thinking about what is the plan for 2025. And so I've got an email in my inbox, which is exciting, from my event manager. We are getting together to run our year-end event in Russell in just 10 weeks. Wow, crazy. It reminds me how important taking time out from your business. I'm really jazzed up and excited about what's coming for the next year with my clients. And part of that was because I got to go and spend 3 days focused on me and my business. Yeah, I was obviously giving generously to the community I'm involved in, and also they're giving generously back to me. I've come back with so many things I need to tweak and adjust in my business because I actually had time out of the day-to-day. That big insight for me was that Johnny and I getting out of the day-to-day of our businesses and looking at it with a different frame, with other people's eyes, with other people's perspective is super important. My question for you is, when are you doing that? When are you going to take 2-3 days out? Go away from the family, go away from your partner, get out of the day-to-day running of the business and just focus on you and your business. I highly recommend you do it as part of a community. I highly recommend you do it with someone to facilitate it because they will make you think differently. And that's what's been really powerful for me about the last couple of weeks. I miss my family dearly and I miss being in my business and hanging out with my clients every day. However, the energy, the insight, the perspective, the wisdom that I got from having someone else facilitate 3 days for me where I'm working and focusing on my business is a game changer. And if you're not doing it in your business, you need to start doing it. And as we come into the final run to the end of the year, now's a good time to think about doing it. With my clients in my world, we do it in November. And we do it in November because I work with mums in business. And you and I both know that come late November, early December, school, kindy, play centre, wherever the kids are at, gets crazy with end of year activities. And so I don't want those two things to be clashing. So we get together in the first week of November and we do the work ready so that when we come back after summer school holidays in New Zealand and Australia in January, we can hit the ground running. So what's your plan? And if you don't have one, get one. And if you want some help, click on the link in the show notes and book a call with me because maybe you want to come hang out with us in the Bay of Islands because our 3-day events at the end of the year are next level awesome. And you're going to leave with insight and clarity to what's going on for your business in 2025. I want to talk about all the doom and gloom and the depressing stuff that's in the marketplace right now. Because in small business, everyone always talks about the fact that 90% of small businesses don't make 10 years. And here's the reason why I think that's the case. The reason 90% of them don't make the 10-year mark is because that in 10 years, you're going to have a full economic cycle. It's easy to start a business when there's a lot of money floating around, free and easy, low interest rates. And if we're talking about the last few years, we had so much free money around. One of the statistics that came out of the event that I was at the other week was that in 2 years' time frame, that global governments, so the collective, printed $14 trillion of money out of thin air. $14 trillion. $1 trillion. I can't tell you how many zeros that is, but I can tell you that 1 trillion is 1,000 billion. They printed $14,000 billion. What? So if you started a business in 2020, 2021, and into the start of 2022, there was a lot of easy capital around to start your business. And more so, your customers had a lot more easy money around. It was easier to borrow money to buy houses and start their own businesses and do their own things. There was a lot of cash floating around. Not only that, it was stuck at home. So the world that I work in, where people are in the online world, was really easy for people to make a lot of money in a short space of time. Now, this is not just a COVID thing. This is a cyclical thing. So we always see this growth period, this expansive period, and then this contraction period in our economies. And when it's in growth and expansion, it is easy to grow and expand. It's easy to spend. People are investing in infrastructure. People are investing in learning more about themselves. People are upskilling themselves. They're spending more money on going out and hospitality and tourism and treats for themselves. And then when it comes to the contractory periods, people are starting to make far more deliberate decisions. And this was the conversation we had, which was, are you a great spending decision? And so people are saying, oh, well, it's not my fault business isn't great because we're in recession. It's contractory. And I've heard these stories before. I heard these stories back when we first bought our tourism business. We went through that global financial crisis. We bought our business about 4 months before it really hit hard in New Zealand in March 2008. And so we have been doing business for 20 years, 2 full economic cycles now. We're now in our second recession, which is not great. It's not a lot of fun. And I would say it's long overdue. In the tourism business, we were seeing signs of contraction in late 2019, early 2020, before the COVID stuff really started to break. Particularly our backpacker traveller market tends to be the canary in the mine. It starts to contract before other things do. It starts to notice that things are getting expensive before other people do. And it's looking for better options for travelling. We were starting to see those contractions. That then got stopped in its tracks when we shut the world down in March 2020. They started printing all that money. All this money that got printed propped up the economy in a way that doesn't normally happen. And now we're feeling the contractory experience of that, because you can't keep printing money and having everything get more expensive, because eventually it implodes. So at some point it has to contract again. It's been doing this for a very long time before I was in business. If you go and look at all of the data, it shows you this kind of up and down. It's always growing, but it's this roller coaster growth cycle that you're seeing. And so we are at the bottom of that cycle, or getting close to the bottom of that cycle. We're starting to see some interest rates relief coming through now. And what we want to be doing is making sure that we're taking great advice in a recession. The 3 shitty bits of advice that I see people get when economic times are tough, and what I would tell you instead. The first one is cut all costs. Particularly, I see them recommending that people stop investing in things that are driving business growth, driving business development. This is either investing in yourself and your understanding and growing and developing the business and building the capacity in it, or marketing and advertising. Now, if you were spending lots and lots and lots while there was lots of money around in marketing and advertising, you might have to think differently about how you do things. But the last thing you should be doing is stopping either of those 2 things. If you're not investing and growing in yourself and your team and making sure that you're getting better at what you're doing, then your business is slowly dying. And if you're not investing money in generating new leads and new sales, then your business is slowly dying. Trying to cut your costs to a point where you will survive a recession is hard. Now, that doesn't mean don't get rid of wasteful spending, because we all got wasteful spending. So the very first thing I get my clients to think about when things start to contract, this was months ago, is we look at what are the leaky buckets? Where are the places where we're spending more money than we need to be spending, and how can we bring that back in? Yes, absolutely do that review. And then you need to be thinking about, what money do I invest where I get a return on investment? And it might not be sales immediately. It might be that it's building a relationship with someone for a joint venture later on. It might be where you're building capacity in your team so you can take on more clients, customers, or guests later on. It might be that you're streamlining systems and processes so that you can more efficiently move clients through, so you can save costs by doing things faster. Because let's be real, wasting an hour a week with your whole team every week adds up pretty fast to $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. The first bit of shitty advice I hear is cut all the costs you can cut. No, I want you to be deliberate about it. Get rid of the leaky bucket where you're just wasting money for no good reason, and be very careful about investments that build capacity, give you a return on investment in terms of time back or money in the future. Because you're playing the long game. You don't plan just to be in business for the next 3 months or 6 months or 9 months. If that's how you're planning, then you're going to come unstuck. You're planning to be here for 3, 4, 5, 10 years. And the way that we do that is be very deliberate about what we do with our money. The second bit of advice I hear is stop marketing and stop advertising. It's a really easy expense line to chop off completely and go, oh, we'll just do no advertising and we'll just do no marketing while things are tight. And because this is quite a common piece of advice, lots of people do it, which means right now, investing in marketing and advertising is a better investment than it was before. And what I'm going to argue is that the advice shouldn't be stop doing it. The advice should be, how resourceful can I be? If I used to spend $10,000 on my marketing, how can I take $1,000 and get the same return? get the same number of leads, get the same number of customers, get the same number of dollar sales? How can I be smarter about this? Because the cool thing about marketing and even advertising is that it's constantly innovating and testing and changing. If you can be innovative, if you can think differently about what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, means that you do that now when your competition's going, oh, can't spend on marketing, advertising. You're going to stand out from the rest of the crowd. You're going to get leads when there isn't anyone else, and you're going to start playing the long game, because you are not in this business just to be here for 3 to 6 months. You're here to be here longer than that, please. Don't turn off the front end of your business, which is where you're nurturing your leads and bringing your business in. And there are some really low cost, effective ways to do this. Like, do you have an email database? When was the last time you regularly emailed them? Super low cost, low time investment way to start talking to your people that have already said, hey, I'm interested in your product. Let me give you my contact details so you can talk to me. Are you being consistent with talking with people that follow you on social media who've got, oh, I don't have very many. I've only got 100 people in my social media. What? If 100 people showed up today and wanted to look at my cruise boat, I'd be pretty excited about that. Wouldn't you? If 100 people walked into your shop, 100 people walked in and asked for your service today, would you be happy about that? Instead of worrying about how many you don't have, focus on what you already do have and get really resourceful about how you can use those resources in your business going forward. So the advice is stop your marketing and advertising because it's an easy cost to cut. That's a terrible piece of advice. The third bit of advice that I hear is don't put your prices up because people are super price sensitive in recession. I also disagree with this. Here's the reason why. If your pricing's not correct, you're going bust slowly no matter what's happening in the external environment. I want to make sure that your pricing is correct. I want to make sure that you're making money on every unit that you're selling, because if you're losing money now and you wait it out until there's more money around before you put your prices up, you are just digging yourself a deeper and deeper hole to get out of it. So once we've fixed leaky buckets in terms of expenses and we're being really resourceful in terms of our marketing, using what we already have to generate more sales, the last thing I want you to think about is our pricing correct? And you don't figure out whether your pricing is correct by looking at what the competition is doing. If you look at your numbers and you think, I'm not making enough money per unit to be able to pay my team, to be able to pay all my costs and pay myself, then you're not charging enough. And if your argument is, oh, but they're not charging anymore and so we'll lose market share to them, they're not making any money either. You only know what's true in your business. And so please stop pricing your products off what the competition are doing. It is really easy to look around and think, oh, but they're cheaper. But in every marketplace, there's the top end and the bottom end. And in every marketplace, there are businesses that are doing really well and there are businesses that are quietly failing. Don't be the quietly failing one. Make sure your price point is where it needs to be. We got massive pushback about putting our prices up on our boat as we came out of COVID because there wasn't the numbers there. And Johnny and I both looked at each other and we've made this mistake before when we had competition come into the marketplace with the overnight cruises and they were discounting and we tried to play that game with them. We're like, we don't have deep enough pockets for this. And so we played the opposite game. We put our prices up and up and up. And that business no longer exists and ours does. And so I know that there's 2 ways to play this game right now with your pricing. You can hold if you, I can tell you that's like death by 1,000 paper cuts. Is selling more stuff without enough margin in it is just making a bigger, deeper hole for you to have to dig out long term. And so what do you need to look at? You might need to look at opening hours. You might need to look at how many team you've got on the floor. You might need to look at what are our costs and can I go back to my suppliers and ask for discounts or shop around and find some different suppliers. Like we're always looking at who can do this at a better rate for us. Where can we go more direct? I had a client recently who sells fish and chips, and her fish prices just kept going up and going up and going up with the big players in the market. And so she went and found a much more direct supplier, someone who was bringing in fish, dropped the price she was paying substantially, which meant she could hold her costings, hold her price point for her customers, which is awesome. If you can get the price point right by asking your suppliers or moving suppliers, cool, do that. But it's really important that you don't just hold prices because the economic climate is tough. And my last bonus bit of advice around recessions is this too will pass. It's cyclical. It's always been cyclical. The way that it works is it's tight, it tightens. They tighten it so much that people contract and stop spending, and then they lay people off, and so unemployment goes up, and then guess what? People start to feel better again because the interest rates start coming down, things start feeling less expensive. They imagine they've got more money, and we come out the other side. So your job is to do the right things during recession. Don't follow shitty advice. Please don't listen to people that started their business in the last couple of years. They've been making a lot of money off the back of freely printed cash. COVID was not a recession. The pandemic experience was not a recession. In a recession, the governments do not prop businesses up. And so you have to do things differently than you did in COVID. It's really important that you make sure you get great advice and you apply it. Don't just cut costs willy-nilly. Be mindful about what costs you're cutting if you're playing the long game. 2, marketing and advertising are an investment, not an expense. Treat them as such. Do you need to get more resourceful when things are tight out there? Absolutely. But don't just stop them completely, because that's going to stop your lead flow. If you don't have leads coming in, you won't have customers. And 60 to 90 days from now, you and I will be having a different conversation where you're freaking out about there being no sales. Don't do that to yourself. And lastly, make sure you're priced correctly. Because if you're not priced correctly, even though people are making good spending decisions, you're going to have to amplify your value. Don't price cheap just to keep customers right now, because that is going to really hurt you long term. I want to see you thrive, not just when things are great. I want your business and you to thrive when things are tight. And so if you're looking for a place where women in business are thriving, no matter the environment, no matter what's going on externally, come join us. We're not just sitting around moaning about what's going on in the economy. We're looking at what are the specific things you can do to make things better long term. And my women, they are thriving. They are doing so well. Their teams are expanding. They're hiring people, and they're looking to the next level for their business. And I want that for you too. So if you're thinking about where can you get support, where can you be part of a community that helps, come from the Moxie movement. In the show notes, there's a link to book a call with me. Let's have a chat and figure out where we can best support you. It could be anything from our free community all the way through to one-to-one support, but there's something there for everyone. And I want to make sure that you and I, we are joining that community of women that are building thriving businesses that support their lives, because the two have to blend seamlessly together. Till next time, stay Moxie.